with Rashmi, and we're excited to bring you an hour of wellness. This is going to be recorded, so just letting you know that ahead of time in case you want to turn off your video, change your name, just want to make sure you're aware of that. This is going to actually be the beginning of a series of conversations where we really been listening to people in our community and wanted to figure out how we could gather resources and create programming to answer your questions and to serve your needs. And there's been a lot on people's minds the last few weeks. So we're hoping that tonight, this provides just kind of like kernels of information where you can help use this to put together whatever plans that you're working on in terms of moving from languishing to thriving. And then, you know, it's going to be a process, and this will be some tools that you can use to kind of put your plans together, and we're here to help and support. So there's some folks out there that I don't know. For those that I haven't met, my name is Courtney Harry, as I said before. I'm the mother of 2 teenage girls and really an advocate for women and kids to really ensure that women and children, or girls especially, have the resources and the community they need to realize their potential and to grow and reach it. So I've figured out that on that mission, we need a culture of self-care in this country. It should be something that is a necessity. And when we say self-care, we can't just think of physical self-care and, you know, movement and nutrition. We need to really think about tapping into the strengths we already have for our mental and our emotional
Alexa,
care.
turn on living room.
Kind of sit on that for a minute. Mental and emotional care being in addition to physical care, just in terms of how we think of self-care. So you're already there. You've invested this time tonight. So thank you for that. Also just want to say thank you for registering and showing up. We do try to keep these groups small. So the fact that you've honored your seat, that means a lot to us. So thank you. We have people from all over the country, and I understand we also have some Canada here tonight. So this is fun. We'll make this an international crowd. I'm here in New York City. So we're going to dive right in. So what has been on your mind? Well, the last few weeks, a lot of you have reacted to this feeling of languishing. The word hit the charts when Adam Grant, who many of us have read about or maybe read his books. He's an organizational psychologist and a professor at Wharton. And he wrote that New York Times article. And actually, right before I jumped on tonight, I saw another article in the New York Times reacting to that, talking about this very topic. So this is very exciting that we're going to be on the forefront of all this, guys, and we're gonna get thriving, get flourishing. So Adam said that this blah space is kind of this void between depression and flourishing, but we're gonna kind of dive into that a little more. And to help us is a dear friend of mine, and this number sounds really big, which makes me feel a little old, but 25 years, and a founder of Optimal Wellness, Dr. Rashmi Schramm. Rashmi is a physician, she's a wellness coach, and she really helps women who are overworked and overwhelmed let go of guilt and tap into inner peace and joy so they can confidently live the energetic and purposeful lives they deserve. So for me, she is someone who has already taken this journey and has taught me so much, and I'm so excited to introduce her to some of you tonight. Some of you already know her. So Rashmi, we are excited you're here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. It is so good to see you guys. I know that some of you know me, and for those of you who don't, it is my absolute honor to meet you. And just like Courtney said, yeah, we realized, I think it's been a little over 25 years that we've been friends. So we're not who's counting, right? And so we were so thrilled to get back together and start working together. And really, it is so closely aligned with what the conversations that I'm having, not just with Courtney, but with so many of my clients, so many of my patients, this idea of languishing. And honestly, I'm really happy to see this conversation because having practiced medicine, it's been literally almost 21 years, having practiced medicine for this long, there's this cultural norm, right? There's this cultural norm of waiting and waiting and waiting to ask for help until we're absolutely desperate. It's like very well accepted. And when we're just desperate and we can't go on any longer, we'll ask for help. But the narrative that I think we need to really start to create, and what I'm seeing happen now is, you know what, no, it's okay for me to ask for help, or it's okay for me to start looking for other ways to grow and evolve, even though I'm not desperate. And it's fine if you're desperate. There's nothing wrong with desperation. We've all been there. But my whole sort of excitement around this came when we started to talk about languishing versus desperation, trying to just get out of desperation. So that's actually what I think is going to be exciting about tonight.
That's great. So as we're having this conversation, if anyone has any questions, just throw them into the chat. You can direct them to me, and I'm going to gather everything. And then at the end, we will have some time with Rashmi. But at first, Rashmi, let's just go ahead and if you could start with the how, because that's something that a lot of people have been asking about. How do we, like, very specifically start to make this transition, given especially where we are in the pandemic and everyone's starting to feel a little stuck?
Yeah, no, for sure. No one is alone if anyone is feeling stuck, because, I know that we're all grateful that, we're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. We're vaccinated. I know that obviously there are so many parts of the world that are really, really struggling. So just kind of bringing in that gratitude that we can even have this conversation, I think is really great. And noticing that really, if there's any guilt that shows up around this conversation, to just allow it to go, because it's not going to serve you at all. So that's the first how. And what I was going to tell you is I was actually going to just quickly read you Adam Grant's sort of definition of this, right? So he talks about really flourishing, right? So flourishing is the peak of well-being, he says. So that means that we have a strong sense of meaning, of mastery, and mattering to others, right? Like, you don't notice a Porsche in that definition. You're not noticing a mansion by the ocean, like none of that, right? These are all human needs that we have to flourish. And that's really the conversation that we're having today. And so we know what, depression is. It's that valley. I mean, we've all either had that at some point or know someone who suffered from it. And, flourishing, we just talked about, and languishing is sort of that neutral point between, I'm not feeling way down here, and it's fine if you are, but I'm also not here. And so how do we get from this neutral point up to the top? I have lots and lots and lots of ideas. I had like 15 ideas, and Courtney has limited me to 3. So I'm going to give you 3 really like actionable stuff right now that you can take home, put it in your pocket, and use the tools. And I can, I'll talk about the data behind that. Is that where you'd like to start, Courtney?
Let's do it. And I am going to restrict you to 3, Rash. We're only going to keep people for the hour. So,
I mean, just the idea that we've been friends for so long, she does know that I could potentially take this to a 6-hour webinar. So so I think 3 is good. So let me read you one of my favorite quotes about thriving from the one and only Maya Angelou. She said, "My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style." It really resonates, I think, for all of us, right? And so this idea of flourishing and thriving is incredibly individual for all of us, right? So my idea of thriving isn't going to be Courtney's, and it's not going to be Mary Beth's. It's just going to be our own individual idea. We did a webinar last week on living intentionally, and we touched on a lot of these things there. And we did a nice little exercise where you kind of sit in the quiet and just ask yourself several questions that have to do with intentions. If you'd like, it's on my YouTube channel. If you'd like to just kind of go through that, I think it's a fun exercise to do, and then you'll do some journaling afterwards. But you probably already know what your idea of thriving is. And so that's that idea that you want to hold on to, not someone else's idea, not society's expectations or their ideas, but really your own ideas. That's what thriving is going to mean for you, that it's very, very individual, and it's almost always evolving. Like, we can't just, right? Like, once we get somewhere, then we're like, oh, well, we want to get to this next place. Like, there's always going to be some amount of up leveling with emotional well-being, with mental well-being, with physical well-being. And so it doesn't mean we're discontent, but it just means that we have this growth mindset and we're continually evolving. So let me tell you the first tip. And this really, I usually always wrap these things up within data and scientific studies. And so the first thing is really gratitude writing. Like, obviously just the idea of having gratitude is huge. And I think a lot of us probably have a gratitude practice already. Even Brene Brown talks about, people who have kind of these official sort of gratitude practices. But I want to tell you about this study that was just really fascinating to me. It was a huge study that was done at UC Berkeley a couple of years ago. They took like 500 kids in college, and for 250 of them, they had them write a very detailed letter to someone once a week, and really talking about all the reasons they were grateful for this person. It was like very, very specific. And then the other half actually got really high level psychotherapy, like counseling and psychotherapy. And so as the study went on, they started to see a real kind of, sort of emergence of this idea of this, the folks that were really focusing on this very specific gratitude journaling started to have higher levels of reported, happiness. They started to have much less symptoms of anxiety, of depression. And then it sustained for several months afterwards. And so what really we can take away from that is two things. Let me mute. So what we can take away from that is just really two things, right? So, and this is like in gratitude studies, this is pretty ubiquitous, by the way, is that the more specific we are, the higher kind of the bang for the buck that we get. So yes, of course, as we see the sunrise or if we see the trees, we're grateful for that. We're grateful for whatever activity that we're doing. But if we can really focus on a very specific thing within the gratitude itself, you're going to get really way more return for your time, right? So, and writing it is really where the key is. And so if you're not already doing that, I would recommend trying it. Just try it, right? Like you have nothing to lose at this point. And so I actually did this today. It was really fun. It was actually really, really fun. And the thing is, you don't have to give it to the person, although I probably will, and I recommend that you guys do it too. But only 27% of the participants gave the letter to the people that they were writing it to. And they did this for 4 full weeks, like I said, and the results of it, it just kind of kept on giving. Like they kept saying, my relationships are getting better. They were taking these happiness quizzes and they were doing better. And so that's just a really simple way, to bring in gratitude. Yes, of course, we're going to be grateful for, the things around us and the people around us, but the more specific you can get, and if you're able to tell those people, and if you're able to write it down, you're going to really immediately start to see a big rise. And, we see that in not just that study, but lots of other studies. So that's the first one. And any questions on that, feel free to pop them in the chat. Courtney, I see a couple of questions there. Oh, that's you. Yeah. Thank you for.
So I put that tip in the
exactly.
chat so everyone can condense it.
Yeah.
So there's that one.
Yeah. And what's astounding is they actually did functional MRI studies on the kids that just did the writing, and they had increased blood flow in the prefrontal cortex, which is, the higher learning cortices, and much lower in the limbic system. So that was really neat. So it had a lot of results like meditation, for example. So that's the first one, okay? And so the second thing is sort of my baby, the thing that I already mentioned a little bit before. And you guys know that I'm a meditation teacher. I teach a couple of different kinds of meditation. It has been a game changer for me in my life in so many ways. And I don't mean just mentally, I mean physically, emotionally, spiritually, professionally, personally, all of those things. And it's been a real kind of like effect on, my family and my friends. And so I've just kind of become this person that is able to continuously grow and evolve. I think because of my meditation practice. And so I'd like to just kind of tell you a little bit about that. I think some of you already practice meditation. Some of you are already seasoned meditators. And so, but if someone perhaps isn't already meditating, I'd love to just kind of give you a little overview. So let me tell you just what mindfulness is first, because that's, there's all these different terms that sometimes we get confused with, and they can be really kind of confusing. So the first real, kind of thing to know and recognize is mindfulness is simple. It is really just the idea of being in this present moment with curiosity and without judgment. Right? Like we're all born being mindful. We don't have to try to be mindful. If you've seen a 2 or 3 or 4-year-old, they're already mindful. They're already curious. They don't have judgment. And so it's just a way of being. It's really easy for me to say, and it's really hard for me to do, but it's something that, when we strive for that, we start to get a big return on that investment. And meditation is just one way to practice mindfulness, right? So meditation is, in the simplest form, going from activity into silence. That's really all it is. It's just going from activity into silence. And so there's all kinds of mysticism with it. There's all kinds of different things that, we might confuse it for, but that's just all it is. There are lots and lots of different ways to meditate, and they're all valid. And so today I wanted to, since we're here to give you tools, I wanted to give you just a fun meditation experience, if you guys are ready for that. Everyone's ready?
All right, I'm seeing some thumbs up. So should people keep their videos on for this, Rashmi, or off?
You know what? You guys can go ahead and turn your videos off if you'd like. Feel free to do that. And you can leave them on too. I mean, I'm going to be on. So, and really the only thing that you really need to do is just, sit up tall, just kind of get yourself in a comfortable position. If you want to sit on the floor, that's totally fine too. If you're in a chair, just get your feet kind of flat on the ground so that you're comfortable. And just gently close your eyes. Just very gently close your eyes. And let's take a few deep breaths together. And with each breath, just as you exhale, just letting go of anything that's no longer serving you. Just gently letting it go. Another deep cleansing breath. And then just simply bringing your attention at the level of your heart and gently noticing your breath there without trying to alter it in any way, just gently noticing it. Without judging, just noticing the breath. And with our attention at the level of our heart, we're just going to ask ourselves 4 questions. And just see what answers arise without judging. Just silently ask yourself these questions. The first question is, who am I? Who am I really? Noticing whatever arises without any judgment, allowing it to come. And the second question is, what do I want? What do I truly desire? Just allowing whatever shows up to come up. The third question is, what is my purpose? How can I serve myself and others? Just simply noticing gently. If nothing comes up, that's okay too. And the fourth question is, what am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? Now just releasing the questions and the answers, just allow them to go, keeping your eyes closed. Let the universe take care of the details. And just gently coming back to your breath. Now I'm going to introduce our mantra. I want you to silently repeat this mantra with your breath. So on the in breath, hum on the out breath. Just silently repeating. So, hum. So, hum. Just allowing the breath to be at whatever pace. And simply and innocently repeating. So, hum. If you find that your mind has wandered, you've done nothing wrong. Just gently return to so, hum. And continue to repeat the mantra, and I'll mind the time. Just gently release the mantra, keeping your eyes closed. Just let the mantra go and just rest. Rest in existence. Now I'd like for you to silently repeat these 4 intentions for living a happy, healthy, harmonious life. Just drop them into your being as I repeat them. joyful, energetic, healthy body. Loving, compassionate, open heart. Reflective, alert, peaceful mind. And lightness of being. And now just taking a few deeper breaths and noticing your feet, maybe wiggling your toes, wiggling your fingers, and just bringing a sense of gratitude with you as you come back. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. So, you're not going to be surprised when I tell you some of the studies on meditation are pretty astounding. They, even just in the short term, a meditation like this turns on the parasympathetic response. And so what that means is we right away start going into self-healing, which is why it can feel so calming for us. And what that means is decreased inflammation. It means less cortisol. It means more of our feel-good hormones, serotonin, dopamine. And over the long term, even just a few weeks, even just 4 to 6 weeks, we start to see some pretty astounding physiological changes in the brain, where the prefrontal cortex, which is again kind of that higher thinking centers, literally starts to get thicker, and that fight or flight response, or that sympathetic response, actually will start to become much less pronounced. And so we can function at a much higher level. We can keep a higher focus while we are under stress without necessarily feeling like we're overwhelmed. And these are just a tiny amount of the studies that I'm telling you about. There are now over 10,000 studies and counting just in the last 20 years. And obviously, I didn't make up this meditation. My teachers didn't make this up. This is an ancient wisdom tradition that's evolved over thousands and thousands of years. And it's literally just that simple. It is just that simple. So you've done it once already. If you hadn't tried that kind of meditation, you can literally just sit and do that, by yourself. You don't need anything. You don't need anyone else. You don't need any fancy devices. You need nothing other than to sit down and close your eyes. And so you can see how simple that is. So that's another tool I really want you to take away. So that's our second tool. So I should go ahead and tell you about the third tool?
Yeah, let's go ahead to the third. Then I'm going to have some questions here. We'll follow up. If anyone else has questions on the first two, you can keep sending them to me. We've got some good ones so far, Rash.
Okay, perfect. So the third one really is community. And so let me tell you what I mean by that. The third one is about the idea of reminding ourselves that we're a herd species, we're herd primates. We are not meant to be isolated, just like we have been with the pandemic. And I know that some of us, because of travel restrictions, really can't still be with each other, and vaccinations and that sort of thing. But what I mean is Zoom is pretty amazing. It's almost all of my coaching sessions are done over Zoom, and they are incredibly effective. I see patients over a different platform, but they're also incredibly effective. So this idea of really finding people who are already doing the things that you want to do, who are already vibing at a place where you want to get to, that's really where we start to notice the accelerated growth and the accelerated evolution, right? There's only so much. I mean, and believe me, I am like a consumer of books and podcasts and articles and all of that, and they are helpful, but they can only get us so far. All of the big growth periods in my life have happened, honestly, in a group of small community, and that's really what I want you to think about. So let me tell you about this. There are two other really interesting studies that I want to tell you about. If we have time, we've got a little time. So there was a study that they actually did at Yale, and this was, I think 3 or 4 years ago, where they had a bunch of older kids, and then they brought in some adults, and they had the adults perform so basically the idea was these kids knew how to open a box. Like that was not a problem. And the adults came in and they asked the adults to open a box. And what they did with these adults was they had them do all these extra crazy things. Like they shook it, they listened, they looked at the bottom, they smelled it. They had them do like 6 other extra steps to open up this box. And then 10 minutes later, they asked these kids to open up the box. And guess what the kids did? Even though they knew how to open the box, was they still did these 6 extra ridiculous, silly steps because they had seen the adults do it. And so I know that we're talking about kids and none of us are kids, but you can kind of imagine this idea of sort of like this, almost like osmosis, right? Like are we doing a lot of extra things that are useless for us? I don't know. And so you want to kind of really look at the community that you're surrounding yourself with. And of course, we all have, family and friends that we're taking care of. I am not at all, suggesting that we abandon everyone else. But if you have this idea of growth, it's really, really helpful to find that community and to really grow with that community. Last one, Courtney, and then I think if you'll put up our slides, that'd be great. So this is a pretty recent Gallup research poll. It showed that if you have a friend who is happy, then you are 15% more likely to be happy just by having a friend who's happy, by the way, like no other, factors. If you have a friend of a friend who's happy, you've got a 9% higher chance of being happy than if you didn't have a friend of a friend. Even third degree, if you have a friend of a friend of a friend who's happy, then you're still 5% more likely to be happy. I mean, that's kind of neat. Not that, you can only hang out with happy people. We know we're not about toxic positivity, but we're really talking about that idea of thriving, right? And so that's exactly why we wanted to bring you really some of this information here. And so I want to tell you about, I think you got to go backwards. Yeah. Nice. Thank you.
My expertise.
Yeah. So this is exactly because of the community that Courtney and I we're bringing you this program, and it's coming right up. And we think every single person here is ready to invest in their well-being. And I know for sure that I was ready to get rid of guilt. I was ready to get rid of stress and anxiety. And certainly what I have found is freedom, joy, inner peace, and that's available for you. What I can tell you with this 6-week program that we're going to do, and actually you're still going to have access to it 6 weeks later, I can tell you there's going to be some tangibles. If you struggle with sleep or sleep issues or sleep patterns, this is going to be a huge game changer for you, because we are going to delve deeply into Ayurvedic secrets of sleep and really change that narrative for you. I can tell you that you're going to come out with improved mood, an improved sense of well-being. If there are issues with blood pressure or heart rate, we talked about that sympathetic overdrive or inflammation. That's really what we're headed towards. We're headed towards decreased inflammation. And we have lots and lots of studies. And when we work on some of these things that we're going to be working on together as a community, that we start to see even epigenetic changes, right? So changes at the level of DNA. So it's really, really powerful. And so it's really a great time for you to join this movement. What's in this 6-week program, right? And so Courtney and I didn't take this lightly, by the way. And this really comes from my work, not just as a physician, but also as a national board certified integrative health and wellness coach. I'm certified in Ayurveda. I'm certified, obviously, I told you, in meditation. And so it's also comes from the hundreds and hundreds of coaching clients that I've helped. And so I really put this together because I wanted to make this more accessible. And I personally am in a community of physician entrepreneurs, and that has been a game changer for me. It's been a huge, literally life-altering thing for me to be with like-minded people and to grow with like-minded people. And that's exactly what we're trying to bring to you. So for sure, this is going to immerse you in meditation, mindfulness meditation, Ayurveda, I already mentioned that. Yoga Nidra, we're really going to play around with that. It is so much fun. And we're going to do things like breath work, like pranayama, and really bring in modern applications for this ancient wisdom. So the real kind of added benefit is, I have, and I think you have too, probably, Courtney, I have bought like 8 or 9 courses in the last 6 or 7 months. I mean, I hog all of those things, and then I almost never get to them because none of them are ever live. And I'm like, yeah, I'll watch that later. And then I just don't. But we're going to give you a live experience, very similar to this, but it's going to be a little bit longer, and it's going to be 6 weeks, and it's going to be a small group of women who really are looking to evolve and up-level their well-being, mind, body, emotional well-being. We're starting this May 21st. It's going to go till July 9th. We're going to always record everything so that, of course, we know that people are going to miss, a day or two. It's not a big deal. You just get to catch up. And then we're still going to have a conversation. Basically, we're going to have almost a daily interaction with you to a certain degree. And so you're going to get not just the community, but also just a teeny tiny bit of non-judgmental accountability as well. And so I already mentioned to you that I'm a national board certified coach. So you're still going to get some laser coaching. And then, of course, I already told you there's a lot of effortless meditation that we talk about. And so you can sign up. There are just a few seats that are left. We've already gotten folks who are already in the program. And so at this particular investment rate, there are just a few seats left. And we'd love to see you guys. We'd love to see you guys take advantage of it. Any questions?
We do. I'm going to put tip 3 right now into the chat, which is find your community. Yep. And then Rashmi, let's go. Thanks for all of that, by the way. I love to hear it all again too, packaged up so well. All right, a few questions going. First of all, the tip 1. We got some shout outs for how simple that was. So thank you for that. Tip 2 on the practice meditation. People are asking, how many times a day do I need to do this for it to actually make a difference? And then what if I'm just not good at focusing and this is just too hard for me?
Yeah, those are amazingly good questions because those were the same questions that I had too. And so really, when I start to talk about meditation with folks, that kind of meditation that we did, really just once a day is okay if that's where you want to start off. And really even just 5 to 8 minutes is perfectly fine because nobody shows up and says, I'm willing to do 30 minutes twice a day, because that's ultimately where most people do end up, by the way. And that's where I am right now. But that is not an okay place for you to start. And so the benefits start right away, literally right away. And even in first-time meditators. And it just keeps adding up. It's like a snowball effect. And so, and I have that interesting app, Insight Timer, and it keeps track of your, like the hundreds of minutes that you've meditated. It's always fun because it goes back for me for like 7 years or something. So that's always neat. The stuff that I talked about as far as decreasing inflammation, that started to happen literally within 3 or 4 weeks of 20 minutes a day. They started to see huge physiological changes with that. Now the brain changes, those took a little bit longer, like the physical brain changes, but it didn't matter. The neuroplasticity of the brain was already at work, even just with the first session. So every little minute counts for that meditation? That's a really, really good question. And the second part of that question was, what if I just can't focus? That's okay. That's okay. So remember, meditation is just an exercise in mindfulness, right? And so mindfulness is paying attention to whether it's the mantra or the breath with curiosity, see what shows up, and without judgment. So the thing that's going to happen, and the folks who are out there who meditate already know this, the thing that's going to happen is you're going to have thought after thought after thought after thought after thought. That's okay. You have a human brain. That's okay. I do too. And so what you'll eventually learn to do is just allow the thoughts to come and go. Just allow the thoughts to come and go. We are not controlling our thoughts. No one can control their thoughts. It just doesn't work. It's just going to totally backfire. And if we try to control something, we're just going to bring a lot of attention to it. So as you do that, you'll just get better and better and better at noticing the thought and letting it go, coming back to the mantra, noticing the thought, letting it go, coming back to the mantra. And ultimately, the more times you do that, like I said, neuroplasticity, you just start to feel more natural at it. It's just like running a marathon. It's just like going to the gym for the first time. None of us can possibly be great at it. And I know for a fact that I felt the same way when I started.
And then someone else is saying breathing, having a hard time with the breathing pieces of it. Do you have any tips for just if you feel like that part of it needs to kind of complement what you're doing? Does that make sense? I mean, I know.
Yeah. And that's, again, that's
because
yeah, for sure. And, and that's because, those of us here, we're pretty smart people. Like we like to use our intellect. There's nothing wrong with that. And so it wants to come in, like the ego and the intellect, they want to come in and they want to be like, you aren't breathing with your, with the mantra, you're doing this wrong. And so again, it's just to notice it as a thought and then to just let it go. And if it isn't with the breath, that's okay. That's okay too. All you're doing is trying, and that's a-okay. That's a-okay. That's a really good question.
That's great. I will say I found the yoga nidras that you do very helpful. It's just practice, which is great. And I think there's one coming up Saturday. Right?
There is one coming up Saturday. Yeah, Saturday morning.
If you haven't done this before, yoga does not mean yoga like movement. And in this sense, it is a meditation, a sleep-based meditation. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yoga Nidra, yoga means union and Nidra means sleep. And so Yoga Nidra is one of the 8 limbs of yoga, actually. And so a lot of times we think of yoga and we just think of the asanas or the positions, and that is absolutely yoga, but it is not the only part of yoga. And so Yoga Nidra is just an incredibly easy and fun, fully guided sleep-based meditation. And I've been doing that for a good long while, and usually get lots and lots of first timers who give us 2 thumbs up. And then of course, some people that are really seasoned. That the experience never really gets old. And that's true for me. You can just go deeper and deeper. And that's what's really fun about something like Yoga Nidra or even the meditation that we did.
Okay, great. I'm going to put that in the chat if that more about.
Yeah, it's coming up Saturday at 10. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I think you have the whole section on your website just on Yoga Nidra, so that kind of meditation is a good place to start. Also, just getting thank yous for all the science that you're putting behind all of this, which I think is very helpful to understanding how this actually works for self-care, right? That it's not just about, sometimes you can't just will yourself, right? There is science behind this is actually changing the body.
Yeah, it's changing the brain, it's changing the body. And, if we really just kind of get quiet, we can almost start to feel that at sometimes too. I mean, it's sort of the antithesis, honestly, of all of my medical school training and my residency and even parts of my practice, because a lot, I trained in a very traditional allopathic school, and that was, I graduated from medical school in 2000. So that was 21 years ago. And, even just the idea of meditation and mindfulness, obviously it's been here for thousands of years, but it didn't start to get even into the lingo of anybody with a lot of medical sort of training, as far as I could tell, not certainly in the allopathic world, until probably like 10 years ago. That's really when you started to really hear about it. And, the studies started probably about 15 years ago. And so, the way I see it, science is really just now catching up to what, our ancestors knew hundreds and sometimes thousands of years ago. But yeah, I mean, at my core, I'm never going to stop being a scientist. And that's really when I started to study meditation, was when I just absolutely dove right in, because it was like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I like what you were saying before. This is nothing new, right? This has been going on for thousands of years. It's just now we're talking about giving it the attention that it deserves, really. Well, the third piece, the community piece, that's my favorite part, which, and just in terms of a lot of the success I've had too, is just around the people that are around you. And a lot of stuff I've done in my leadership roles is creating those communities to make sure that people are surrounded by, people who are going to bring them up, are going to help them reach their potential, like we were talking about earlier. So I'm glad you brought that one up. I actually saw that one in the article today that I was mentioning earlier about flourishing. So I think there's a lot to be said for the people that you bring on this journey. So I'm glad that you and I are on this journey, to be honest, because I learn from you every day.
Same, like back at you. Yeah.
Gonna get emotional. That's all the questions. If anyone else has anything else, feel free to send it to me in the chat. Let's see, anything else we want to mention before we close it out, Rashmi?
Yeah, I've got just a fun little, guided imagery for you guys to kind of leave you with some inspiration. Does anybody have any questions? Like, you guys can unmute, but if you don't want to be on video, then feel free not to be on video. But we've got a couple of minutes. So,
and what else? If you want to close us out with a visualization, we'll hang back for a few minutes after that. And then anyone who wants to ask any personal questions of you can as well after we shut down.
Yeah, and individually too, it totally works, because, obviously Courtney and I are super jazzed about the program that's coming up. We think it's going to be all that and then some.
Self-care for everyone. That is going to be the culture we're going to create in this country.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to do another, just a quick, fun little experience before you guys head out. And certainly if you want, you can always hang out and come back and ask me questions. And so let's just kind of get comfy again. If if you want to lay down, that's fine too, whatever you want to do. But just be super, super comfortable. And then just gently, when you're ready, just gently close your eyes. And again, let's just very, very gently, just noticing your breath. Just noticing it. And then just in your mind's eye, I really want you to visualize yourself fully expressed, like you are thriving, you are flourishing, you've achieved mastery in whatever it is you want to. You're feeling joyful. What does that look like? What are you doing? Just notice. Maybe you're riding a bike on a beach. Maybe you're giving a TED Talk. Maybe you're writing a book. Who's around you? Where are you? Just gently noticing what shows up for you. You are fully actualized. You are thriving, flourishing. Just noticing that for yourself. I want you to just notice that there's a little sly smile that breaks across your face. Like all of a sudden you just realize this is contentment, this is joy. And that little smile becomes a huge, gigantic grin, like ear to ear kind of grin. As you're grinning like this, you start to notice there's a light in your heart and it's shining. It's shining outward and everywhere. It's so bright. It's getting brighter, brighter, just so joyful. As this light gets brighter and brighter, so do you. You're really just sending this light to those around you, to those far away from you. Just sending everyone blessings. You wish this for others. You wish this great deal of joy for others that you have. Just enjoying that feeling. Now just taking a few deeper breaths, letting that image go, keeping a hold of what that might feel like, look like, be like, and setting that intention for yourself, putting it out into the universe. Let's take a few deeper breaths. And just bringing in some gratitude for giving yourself this time, for investing in yourself. Just when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. That's always really fun to do.
Great. I feel so calm and peaceful now. Thank you. Thanks for being here, Rashmi. It's been fun. It's been a fun night. I hope everyone has enjoyed it. If we want to continue, we're going to continue to have these conversations. And if there are tips that you've used that you want to share with others, please let us know. If you have your own personal Thrive story you want to share to motivate our community, please let us know that as well. We want to hear from you. We'll keep listening and bringing you topics of things.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And then please spread the word. If this is the kind of world you want to be in and you want to live in and you want to create, please just let other people know about the work that's going on. Share your own tips. They can, if you can follow Optimal Wellness on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Actually, YouTube, if I can make one big plug. Rashmi is putting more and more videos on YouTube, so that would be helpful. And that's our evening. But I do invite anyone who wants to stay back. If you want to ask questions, we will take like about a 30-second break and let folks who want to leave. If you want to hang back, please do so. Thank you, everyone. So nice to see you.
Yes, actually, that is my last ask. Actually, I think I need like 12 more followers for my YouTube channel, which is a baby channel, but it's growing. I have some really fun meditations and I keep adding more in there to get my own custom URL. So I'm like 12 people away.
Great.
So just go to YouTube and put in my name and you'll see it.
Well, you can call me as one. I just have one quick question versus the 30 seconds is, can we get